Welcome to Easy Landlord Forms first webinar. We'll be getting started shortly. Thanks for joining. Welcome to Easy Landlord Forms first webinar, finding the best tenant for your rental property. To start off, just a little bit about Easy Landlord Forms. It was founded in 2005 by Kevin Keene. He was a landlord who finally decided that if no one else was going to build the perfect lease for him, he would do it himself. Since the alpha version of the website launched in 2006, over 3 million landlords have discovered how much easier it can be to manage their properties, comply with state landlord tenant laws, and prevent unnecessary landlording headaches using us, Easy Landlord Forms. Just a reminder before we get started, this is not legal advice. If you do have any legal questions, please consult an attorney. My name is Erica Scott. I am the operations manager here at Easy Landlord Forms. A little bit about me personally. I've been with Easy Landlord Forms since 2011. I bought my first rental property at 22, inspired by Easy Landlord Forms, and I am a mom. That's my son, Benjamin. A little bit about my experience as a landlord. When I purchased my first rental property, I had no idea how to really get started. I knew about forms, I knew about landlord-tenant laws, but getting started, I still felt a little in the dark. So I was constantly asking questions, which brings us to why we wanted to offer this webinar. There are probably a lot of other newbie landlords out there that were just like me. So to go in to my landlord experience a bit, my property is in a suburban area near transportation and shopping, so it wasn't hard to find applicants or landlords, but I meant tenants. But finding the right ones was the challenge, but we'll get more into that later. After finding my tenants, I always use the Easy Landlord Forms residential lease package for an added punch of protection. We have state-specific leases for all 50 states plus Canada, and we now offer e-sign, which makes the process so much easier. You don't even have to print your lease. You simply create, sign, and send it right through our service. And when it's signed by all parties, it's stored right into your account. So if you're ever in a situation where you can't find your lease in a folder or something, you can just log on to your account and print it right from there. And a little bit about how great the lease is. I actually had an issue pop up with my tenants. They weren't keeping up with the weeding and ended up growing above the fences. And I got a letter from the association with a fine. At first, I was upset because no one expects to pay a fine. But then I remembered that I covered that situation while creating my lease. So everything ended up being fine. I didn't have to pay a fine, and the weeds are gone. So having the right lease is a good way to keep yourself and your property protected. Today, Dan Pepito will be assisting me with this awesome webinar. Webinars seem to run into issues here and there, so Dan is here to sort out all the kinks. Introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Pepito, and I will be assisting with this webinar today to help make sure this thing goes off without a hitch. I have 5 years experience in social media and many more working with different brands for product recognition. I love being part of the community and learning what needs people have. I also have my first rental home and a second investment property in the works. I want to be able to give feedback and get feedback so that we can all grow together. With ezLandlordForms, I personally have found so many useful tools like Erica and tips for working in the landlording industry. Working with ezLandlordForms really inspired me to start investing in rental property. And today, I hope that we can get some information across to you to make sure that you become a great landlord as well and learn as much from us as we learn from you. We are on social media on all the major outlets. You can check us out on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Google+. And we also, if you are mobile friendly, are available on Flipboard as well. We wanted to start this webinar series to be able to reach out and interact with you, our community and customers directly. Today we are going to talk about finding the best applicant for your rental property.
Okay, so back to why we all are here. Why landlords need a before we get started, please introduce yourself in the comments. Let us know who you are and where you're coming from. Hello, Kevin from New Jersey. Welcome. We hope you learn a lot. All right. Okay, so back to why we're all here. Why do landlords need a thorough tenant screening? I mean, in my opinion, it's pretty self-explanatory. So your house doesn't end up like this or like this. We work really hard to keep our investments in great shape. So today we will be speaking to our guest, Luca Lolino. Luca is the author of How to Get Your Tenants to Pay, Stay, and Obey. This book is super informative. It walks you through the entire process of finding the right tenant from start to finish. And it also has some amazing reviews. And we are going to send you that link to the book. All right. So what's cool about the reviews of this book is it's not just new landlords starting out and, trying to figure out what they're doing. It's actually like veteran landlords also that have probably gone through this process and have found some tenants that have, destroyed their property. But it's super informative. It really helps you with the little things that you don't even realize you're not doing right. So a little on Luca. He personally owns and helps manage a total of 3 residential investment properties. They are multifamily homes. His wife and him actually live in one of the buildings. So he grew up helping his parents manage and screen applicants for their properties. And he's worked on both ends of the renting process as a real estate broker and helping landlords find renters and renters find units. He also works with first-time and seasoned investors to help find investment properties that work for them and their needs. Luca has a lot of great experience from both ends, and we knew instantly that he had a lot to offer our audience. Luca, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody, and thanks, Erica, for that introduction. I'm super thrilled to be a part of this webinar, and I hope to really add as much value as possible to everybody listening. So just like Erica said, I've really grown up around real estate, starting off with living in my grandfather's building and helping him as a kid, really help him translate from Italian to English when he was screening and interviewing tenants, to now owning and managing rental properties. I do have a degree in structural engineering and worked for several years in the nuclear industry, but truly my passion is real estate. It's a really wonderful business. It can be very rewarding and lucrative. And I really wanted to learn as much as I possibly could. So I got my broker's license and ended up becoming a full-time broker. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm a broker on the northwest side of Chicagoland primarily. And I'm also looking to get more rental properties as well. I've seen real estate from the perspective of landlords, tenants, buyers, and sellers, and personally as an investor myself. So I really want to help others as much as possible be successful in this wonderful business.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's get into those questions. So to start off, how many units are you currently renting out?
Okay, so we have a total of 8 rental units spread out over 3 buildings. They're all like 3 flats, basically. It's a pretty Chicago thing. And I currently live in, that's the first one you showed. I currently live in that one, and I rent out the other 2 units. And that was in the northwest side of Chicago. And these 2 that you're showing right now are just about 20 minutes north of that one in a suburb of Chicago called Park Ridge. Living in the building itself has been a really great learning experience for me. I was able to, be close to things when, close to the property, right in the property when things broke down, and also just to learn how the whole dynamic of the building works between the tenants and between us and the tenants. So it's been a really wonderful learning experience.
That's great. So how many units is it total? I'm sorry.
It's a total of 3 buildings, and there's 8 rental units.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Right. And so, there would be 9, but I live in one of them.
Right. Geez, so you have to find tenants for 8 units. That's tough.
Yeah, it can be rough, but because of the areas we're in, we really don't have trouble getting the number of applicants. We don't have a problem with vacancy. The problem is getting that great tenant, that perfect tenant. That's really the challenge for us.
Right. So now, do you prefer a property in a specific area, like suburban, rural, or urban?
Well, all these properties that that I'm a part of, they're all pretty much in the same area. The one on the northwest side of Chicago, it may as well have been like a suburb. It's close to O'Hare. The ones in Park Ridge are also, they're also close to O'Hare Airport, and they're really close to public transportation. They're close to shopping. The one in Chicago is close to CTA, public transportation. So those are the kind of properties that I'm familiar with and I really understand.
Right.
And both neighborhoods are pretty sort of middle class, working class neighborhoods. They're typically bigger units. So I'd probably stick to that, and the next investment I'm looking in is going to be something like that as well.
Okay, nice. Now, do you have any experience with Section 8 housing?
So I personally don't have any experience with Section 8 housing, but it's important as a landlord for you to be well informed of the laws and regulations in your state and county. Like, for example, right now in Cook County, which is where the properties that I have are in, they don't allow you to refuse a tenant because they're Section 8. So you have to consider them as an applicant, and you're still allowed to have credit requirements and income requirements.
Right.
But you should do everything you can to try to get them in, actually. So it's important that if you're a landlord, you should know what the rules are in your area for that. But I have heard that, I've heard secondhand that the Section 8 program has gotten a lot better.
Okay.
And that some landlords actually like to just do that if they can, and they really love it. So it's good to be informed.
Right. I actually have a friend that will flip houses and then just do solely Section 8. So it definitely, I'm sure it has improved.
Absolutely.
So how do you advertise your rental properties?
Okay, so basically it really depends on how much time I have for the most part. But the advertisement itself, my advertisements will always include pictures. That's super important, especially with the internet age. Like, you have to have pictures, even if the inside isn't totally done, and all you have is the picture of the outside. Just use that picture, and then once the unit's totally done, you can go in and take pictures and keep those as stock for future vacancies. Always, try to point out in the advertisement, point out, some of the main features of the property. Things that get a lot of hits are, granite countertops if you have them, stainless steel appliances, what you're close to. So what you want to do as a rule of thumb is like advertise the unit and not like who you're looking to get in. So in terms of like what I use, in terms of like platforms, basically what I do is, depending on how much time I have, I kind of approach it a little differently. So if I have some time, if a tenant tells me I'm going to move out in a month or so, a month or 2 months, and I have some time, what I do is I sort of use the mantra of like, I just try to think local, simple, and cheap, from like the ground up. So the very first thing I do is I'll ask my current tenants, who I already have a rapport with, like if they know anybody who'd be interested. And especially it's important with these like intimate 2 to 4 unit buildings. They like it, and you have a personal referral. So it's really good.
Right.
If that doesn't work, then I try to work my network. I try to find out, who I know, if they know anybody. And if that doesn't work, in a few days to a week, then I'll definitely put a sign out in front. When I put the sign out in front, you risk having nosy neighbors come through, but it's totally worth it. I've had a lot of good luck with just a sign. Then I move on. If that doesn't work, I move on to social media, or like, tear off number ad, simple in like the grocery store or the coffee shops in the area. But if you're like, if you're short with time, if your tenant like runs out on you in the middle of the night and now you have a vacancy and no time to fill it, you should really try to leverage the internet as much as you possibly can. You can use free sites like Craigslist, Zillow, Trulia, those kinds of websites. And then if you really want really effective and quick results, you can also always go with the realtor, and they can put it on the MLS. Like my brokerage charges 1 month's rent for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's usually pretty effective and pretty quick.
Okay. Now, do you think where you advertise is vital in this process?
So like I said, it really depends on how much time you have and how much money you want to spend, where you want to advertise. But in my opinion, you want to get it in front of as many eyeballs as possible. So you should try everything you possibly can to get it out there, because the best problem to have is having too many applicants to choose from. So
Right.
You want to be able to have that choice. You want to be able to look at everybody's information and then make the most informed decision you possibly can. You can't do that unless you have a lot of applicants.
Right. Choosing is not bad.
Right.
So have you ran into any issues with advertising?
I mean, luckily I haven't run into any issues with advertising. Getting my real estate license has definitely helped me out, helped me learn all the rules and regulations that, go into it. You got to be careful with discrimination in advertising, and sometimes things that you think maybe are, totally innocuous or just like no big deal, you could actually get in trouble for. So you should really be informed of what those things are and try to avoid it. But as a general rule of thumb, like I think I said this before, you want to advertise the unit and not really who you're looking to get into the unit.
Right.
So that's just pretty good rule of thumb. Use common sense there, and you should be, you should be okay. But yeah, you don't want to say things like, no kids, no families, things like that are not good.
Right. And just so our attendees know, make sure you check your local laws, your state laws, and even your association laws, because I know that in one of my rentals, I actually can't have any signs in the yard or in the windows. So you don't want to get yourself in trouble and, get a fine or anything. And
Definitely, good point.
and even like kind of going back on what you said is, I know that I have 2 big pharmaceutical companies near my rental. So I usually put that in the posting because, you need a lot of employees for those places and they need places
Yeah,
to stay. So I always make sure I include that in mine. So,
definitely.
do you how do you prefer your applicants contact you? Like calling or email or text?
So I guess I'm pretty old school about this, but I definitely prefer a phone call for my prospective tenants because, I'm able to initially screen them and have a conversation with them.
Right.
Sometimes, especially if I'm on the road or if I'm getting a lot of calls, I ask them to text me with their name and maybe some basic information about them, so that, I have it on my phone and I could remember it. Because a lot of times if you get flooded with showing requests and inquiries, it's tough to keep track of it for sure.
Right. I remember actually in the beginning, I did not want to talk to my applicants. I guess I was just
Yeah.
nervous and I was just like, why do I need to talk to you? Just give me the information and then we'll go from there. But it's so vital. It's so, so important.
Yeah, definitely. It's scary at first and you feel nervous about it, but it's something that you have to do.
Right. Now, after your applicants show interest in your rental property, what are your first moves?
So, the first thing you got to do if they show interest is you have to have an application ready to give them. Okay, so like I always have my applications, extra applications, and I bring them to the showing. So as soon as they show interest, that you give it to them. You want them to fill it out right on the spot if they can,
Mm,
because if they leave, then they're less likely to send it to you, later on. It becomes difficult too to get it to you sometimes. So,
right.
and then another thing you can do, like the ezLandlordForms.com has that paperless application, which you can actually do before the showing.
Right.
And I think that's really great because you can, the benefit is really twofold. That way you're only going to do the showing to qualified people and you're going to save time. And the other thing is you're going to have some talking points ready to go with the tenant during your showing. So it becomes more conversational. And you can learn a lot more about them that way.
Right.
So, your application should have basic things like previous landlords, work history, income, number of occupants, if they have pets, etc., and also a permission to run credit and background.
Right. Right. And what's really good about the free paperless rental application is that it is free. And if you do have it, say you go to your rental and you're about to do a walkthrough and you realize you forgot to bring your applications with you,
Right.
you can literally just ask the applicants to give them your name and email, and then you can just send it right away
For sure.
and they can fill it out. Now, are there certain steps of screening you do before running the credit and background check? Other than the application, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of the reason why I prefer the phone call is for the screening purposes. So it's a super effective way of saving time figuring out if they're good, if they not if they're good, if they have basically if they have everything that, like if there's things that they have, like for example if they have pets and you have no pets, for example,
Right.
like that's a good thing to figure out because you don't want to waste your time with the showing if that's
Right.
the case. But I pretty much I start off with a question of how many people will be living there. Okay, this is good because it's good to ask. You want to know. But what's really important more than the answer is how they go about with their answer. If they come and say, "Oh, there's 2 people," it's me and my wife, for example, and then you continue talking, and then it's me and my wife and our adult daughter and her husband, and then they have kids, and then like
Right.
2 people turn into like 6 or 7. So like then like maybe they're going to apply with 2 and then they're going to end up with 10 people in the unit, which
Right.
it's not
Right.
honest. You want to ask them if they have pets. Even if you don't accept pets, you let them answer candidly, so you're more certain of their honesty. You can also, and I also like to ask them, do they have the total move-in money? Usually that's the security deposit in the first month's rent. Do they have it now? And or do they have to, call cousin Sal and get the money in 2 weeks?
Right.
And so you want to, how financially stable are they? You can ask them if can you verify their income? Do they have pay stubs? And then, and then basically schedule the showing. I initially, would drop everything when I got a call from a prospective tenant, and I would run to the property, for example, and try to do the showing, and then half the time they wouldn't show up. So
Right.
it was a big waste of time. So what's a good tip to do is, you can schedule a showing a day or two out, and then you have them call you 1 hour before the showing. So and then you exchange phone numbers. So if they're late, they can call you. Also, it shows you how reliable they are. Can they wait a day or two and give you a call? So it's a great tip. So,
Right. And actually, going back to,
Yeah.
you asked them, can you verify your income? In your book, I remember you saying something like, a tenant was asking if they could give you, extra money, a lot of money down. And, if you make sure that they have a pay stub, you make sure that it's honest money rather than, I can
Yeah.
pay you in cash and,
Right.
it's not a good business. Just because they can pay you in cash doesn't mean that that's the best tenant immediately.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely true. And, it may seem, you may really want to take that money. Yeah. It may be
Right,
enticing,
right.
like, oh, here's extra $200 and here's the security deposit in the first month's rent, especially if you had it vacant for a month, but don't take it. Cause if it's too good to be true, it is.
Right.
And usually they're doing that for a reason. They don't want you to run their credit, their background, because there's something there they don't want you to see.
Right.
And they can't necessarily have a paper trail for their income. So.
Right. And just so everybody knows, we sent you guys our free phone screening ledger. This is super, super helpful. It has, everything that you would need to ask the tenant, plus a note section if you want to ask anything else. And then it also kind of makes sure that you're sticking to the script. You're making sure that you're asking each applicant the same thing, rather than just giving them a call randomly and, just talking about whatever. But also, in Luca's book, I also remember it saying something along the lines of, let your tenant talk. Like, let them just conversate with you, because you're going to find so much information about them, rather than just, if you do stick to the script, that's great. Get these questions done. But then just, have a good conversation with them, get to know them. Because as he said before, it could start off as, it's just me and my husband. And then all of a sudden, you have their daughters and their daughter's child and their brother's uncle, everybody is going to be staying in your rental.
Yeah, definitely.
So after taking your applicant through the phone, the phone screening,
Yeah.
Then what do you do?
So ideally, like I said, we schedule the showing. We give it a day or two, get the showing scheduled. And this is the second opportunity you're going to have to screen them in person and really get to know them even further. So basically you want to try to meet everyone who will be renting out the unit at the showing. So you ask them on the phone, can everybody come? Or if maybe the first time not everybody can come, second time everybody can come. Mm-hmm. So you want to interact with them as much as possible. Like you said, observe their body language, and you can tell a lot about a person by doing that. With practice, you're gonna get better at figuring out, who's honest and sincere and who's necessarily not. Well, like you said, you got to listen as much as possible, especially for that person who's, extroverted, talks a lot. Mm-hmm. I found out something. I had somebody come and, after the showing, we were sitting around talking about it, and I really liked him. He seemed to have everything I was going to rent to him totally. But then he started talking about how, he has a jewelry store, and at his current place, he was kind of short. He was short 1 month, so he tried to pay his rent with jewelry store discounts. And and he was saying that that's what he likes in a landlord, somebody who's flexible. My wife likes jewelry, but I'm not going to accept that for rent. So definitely you have to let them talk. But on the other hand, if somebody's super shy, which you're going to get that, then it's your job to ask them questions. You have to ask them probing questions. And,
Right.
and it's going to take some practice, but you have to definitely do it. Another good tip that I like to do is I like to bring a partner to the showings, if possible. I'm not always able to do that, but it's really good because they'll offer a second opinion, and also the prospective tenants are more likely to feel more comfortable with one of you, and then be more candid.
Right. I actually also noticed that after taking, the application and checking employment and everything, a lot of times tenants will put down their landlords, and then, you could be talking to their brother
Yeah.
or, their aunt or something. So something that I like to do is verify their landlord. So I'll go on to, the public records to make sure that the property address listed is, with the same name and whatnot that's listed.
Definitely. It's a super good point.
Right. So just some extra tips to note. Drive by where the applicant currently lives to see how clean they are. You could even, drive by during trash night just to see, what kind of trash they are. It is a little bit intrusive, but you could find out so much about the applicant. Is there trash all over the yard? Is there, toys left out? Is there a couch, in the middle of the yard? You just want to see how they're treating the property, because, that's probably how they're going to treat your property. Group your showings 30 minutes apart. Schedule first, call a couple days away or have an open house. You don't want to sound too eager to fill your rental. As Lucas said, that's when applicants will ask to lower the rent amount. So you want to kind of set a specific time and schedule a bunch, because also if you do have renters that are in your property, you don't want to have them, leaving their place, all the time. It's a disservice.
For sure.
And don't rush to accept your applicants. Stick to your process and stick to your screening. It's super important. And another one is be sure to count any cash you receive right in front of the applicant. This can get, a little awkward, but it would be more upsetting to realize they shorted you money after you left their presence than, withstanding the discomfort. Plus, it's all hearsay at that point. And it's okay to advertise and show your rental before it's finished. As Lucas said, take a couple pictures of the outside, and, advertise like that, and then let them walk through, and you can let them know, listen, the floors are not done. I have somebody coming in here to finish them. And also bring rental applications with you to showings. If you actually go to the screen before, we offer a free rental application right on the website. You can log in just with email or password to create a free account, and you can download this immediately. You can download it, print as many as you want, and just stick them on a counter. And as people walk in, just let them take them and fill them out. And while they're walking through, or when you're done, and just make sure you collect them after. And make sure that they write their email on there, because you can send them the tenant screening right from our website after you're done. And another thing to note is don't make friends with your applicants. This is a business to make money, not friends. And I actually almost got into that routine because, my tenants are so great. And I started, checking up on them, and you don't want to get into that, relationship. It's a business. So now we're going to walk you through the tenant screening process. But stick around, because we will be having a Q&A with Luca at the end.
Hello, everybody. This is Dan again. I'm back. Erica and Luca definitely gave a ton of great information here. And we just wanted to do a quick walkthrough of our tenant screening process for you, show you how easy it is, and let you know that, this can all be done relatively instantly. And all you need to start is the tenant's name and email address. So when you do meet them, get that information, and then you can start. So this is what our website looks like, and this is what our tenant screening page looks like. And you can see the options you have here. You can do your rental application and criminal and credit check all together. The rental application is free. So whether you want to do one before the other or them at the same time, you simply go ahead and start here. Just so everybody knows, we get this question from landlords a lot. When you do pull a credit check, we have a lot of landlords saying, I just want the criminal, I don't want the credit. And the reason for this is because they're afraid that they're going to affect the tenant's credit, and the tenant doesn't want that to happen. Through this service, usually tenant screenings through most companies, we work with TransUnion directly, credit bureau. They are a soft credit pull, so they don't affect their credit at all. So you can pass that on to other landlords. You can let your tenants know. But doing a full credit and criminal report is the most thorough way to start tenant screening successfully. So once you have the tenant's name and email, you can go through, fill it in. You answer a few questions out about your property, about the rental term, and how much it's going to cost. And all this gets factored into grading score at the end, whether the tenant's going to be a good tenant or not, or if they'll be suitable for your company, for your property, if they make enough, if they have a good enough debt to income ratio, and that. There we go. So this is the tenant application online. We'll just go through it real quickly. It's a very basic application. It actually reflects our free application almost to the T. It is laid out very nicely so that they can go through, choose their options, and they can really give you a ton of information. To do this, once you click send request on that last page that we showed you, the applicant will get a secure link and set up a profile at tenantapp.com. That is our website. It is a secure website, and it'll already have their email filled in. This will help link their account securely to yours with the results when they are finished. Let's see. So this application covers all the information that the landlord would want and would be able to carry out a thorough tenant screening. It has the name, the last 4 digits of the Social Security. We do not store that, and that is for security purposes. Address, employment history, housing history, and so much more. This is a full 3-step process. It takes less than 5 minutes, I would say, total for an applicant to go through and fill everything out for you. And then you would get the results immediately. Once the applicant goes through and fills all of it out, they actually will preview it and make sure that everything's correct. They'll agree to the terms and conditions. And let me get to one thing. Yeah. There's an important message on the bottom that the applicants must check before sending the application. And this is important. This really helps protect you as a landlord, and it does protect them. It's a message that says, I authorize the landlord or landlord agent to conduct a background screening, including the applicant's credit report, contacting present and past employers, creditors, landlords, and any other sources deemed necessary to investigate the applicant in the purpose of renting. What this does is a lot of landlords that are old school or do things by paper still believe they need a hand-signed paper saying that they're allowed to do it. This really replaces that, since everything is electronic, and by agreeing to those terms and conditions, you are protected to carry out those background checks. Once they're done, they would move on to approving the credit and criminal report. That process, you can choose as a landlord to have them pay, or you can pay yourself if you still collect an application fee. The option to let the tenant pay is a great new option because it does kind of get rid of the need to switch hands, let money switch hands between people. So it really helps out a lot. It's very quick. And they would get their credit report results, and this is what they look like. It gives you all the information you would need. Any black marks, red flags, credits, and it actually would still give balances of credit cards owed and everything like that, plus a full FICO score. And this is a little example of the criminal report. This offers a nationwide search, sex offender data, fraud alerts, identity verification, searches databases like the DEA, FBI, and ODAC, as well as, I believe, an international most wanted list. So you really get a thorough understanding there. Once they fill out the application and approve the tenant screening, you will receive an email notifying you that the results are in. To review the results, you would simply log into your ezLandlordForms account and go to the applicant results page. Okay, so that was a quick run through. We're going to open this up for a little Q&A. Don't be afraid to ask us anything and let us know your thoughts.
Okay, Ryan, thank you for that question. We actually are in the process of adding that to our paperless, our free paperless rental application. You are right, it currently does not ask for that, but you can use the free rental application and it does have that information on there. Some questions we had from customers beforehand. Okay, so one is, can you choose to skip over any interested party because of grammar in an email or typed response?
Is that question for me?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay. So if there, can you deny somebody because of that?
Yeah. So like they just, incorrect spelling or something. They forgot a comma.
I mean, I don't think you can. Again, I don't, that I'm not an attorney, so really the question is for an attorney, but
Right.
I don't think you really can do that. I wouldn't recommend, basing it just on the spelling, especially now. I mean, nobody really knows how to spell anymore. So because of spell check. Yeah. I wouldn't base it on that.
Right. And now, Kevin, you said, how long do you go between tenants? What exactly do you mean by that? If you just write that in the chat, we'll get back to your question in a minute. So while he writes that, we will go into the next question. What condition should the house be in when showing for the first time? So we kind of did go over that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you want it to be in the best condition possible, but if you don't have it ready, don't be shy about getting it on the market and coming and having people come take a look at it. And when they do come take a look at it, you let them know. You let them know if you have to replace the carpets or wash the carpets or do X, Y, Z. So.
And I don't know if you would know this, but this question from our customers, do I need a business license to be a landlord?
Absolutely not. You can own property under your own personal name. There's some liability issues with that too. Like there's you have if you own it under an LLC, for example, you kind of limit your liability, but you can definitely own it as personally. You don't need a business license.
Right. Now, this is again from Ryan. Do you generally ask applicants for recent pay stubs?
Definitely. I want to see the recent pay stubs, at least two. If they can give me more, the more the better. And then, you also want to call the company, their employers, and see if they're really working there. Google check their place of employment, make sure that cross-check the numbers. And then some companies even offer like an employment verification document they can send you. If it's a smaller company, though, they won't do that.
Right. This is from Kevin. When a tenant moves out, how long until you usually get the unit rented again?
Well, okay, so let me answer this a couple different ways. Number one, I try not to make the length of vacancy really control my decision. So I want to get the right tenant in. So I'm willing to forego some rent now to get that good tenant, because it's so much harder to get a problem tenant out than it is to, lose a month or two of rent.
Right.
That being said, every area and every property type has its own vacancy rates. So you can in the properties that I have experience with, that we really have low vacancy. So they usually get rented right away. But if I like to try to get notice before they move out, so I'll show it while it's currently occupied that last month.
Right.
So you don't have, you have less time in there. So don't wait till that tenant moves out. Start showing it and start advertising it before then, obviously with their permission,
Right.
to do the showings.
Right. And it is smart,
Makes sense?
you don't want to just fill it with whoever, because, and because foregoing those couple months of rent to make sure you get the right tenant is allowing you to not, miss out on multiple months of rent and going through an eviction process.
Yeah, definitely.
So, it is important to make sure you're finding the right tenant, not just the quickest tenant who's going to, move in as soon as possible.
Yep. Kevin, does that answer your question?
While he answers that, I'll give you the next one.
Okay.
How do I ensure the applicants will switch over the utilities, or how do I prepare for the new applicants and utility companies?
Well, you should call the utility companies and let them know that you have to let them know first that they're going to be switching. So especially if the utilities are back in your name. And then other than that, there's really not much more you can do, just to, make sure that the tenant is aware of, if they have to, what companies they have to call, if they, if it's electric, gas, or just electric, or, stuff like that. Just keep them informed. That usually is okay, as long as they know what's going on.
Okay. Now, how much do you charge for a late fee?
I usually put like $20 for a late fee. But I don't think I've actually ever charged a late fee to anybody.
That's awesome.
So I have gotten rent late in the past. But if it's just like once or twice, I don't charge a late fee, because I'd rather keep that relationship with that tenant good than, make an extra $20.
Right. Now, I do know some people will charge like, 10% the first day or the first week. And then after that, it's like, $10 a day or something. Some people are super, like stringent on that.
Yeah. I think it's
And it's regulated?
in some states.
Oh, in some states it is regulated.
Yeah.
You have to charge a certain amount, or you can't charge a certain amount.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a philosophy thing. If you want, if, for example, I think it's different if you have, these small buildings, you kind of gonna treat it a little different than if you have like a 50 unit property. So for the properties that we have, we just we try to take everything case by case, basically.
Right. All right. And now I think that was the last question. Does anybody have any other questions? All right, while you guys think of that, I'm going to send you one offer. It's not exactly an offer, but we're going to send you to Luca's Facebook page if you want to learn more about him, or if you want just more information, you can send him a message, or just check out all that he has to offer. And as I load that up,
You got another question here.
yeah. So it's do you use direct deposit to your account, and can you recommend a service that's good? Actually, before you answer that, we would like to offer that in the future. So, stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, you can absolutely answer that.
I don't use direct deposit. I usually just take checks for my tenants, but you could use Chase Quick Pay is a good one that I know that people use. Other than that, I don't know of any other services, but in the future, like you said, I mean, I think I'll go towards that. So I'd stay tuned for what ezLandlordForms is going to be doing.
Also, and what I actually do with my tenants, I'm not, now please don't take this as any type of advice or anything, but what I do, I don't know if it's legal or not, is I actually will go to my bank, ask for deposit slips. I'll fill them out for them, and I just give them to them when I give them the lease, have them sign everything, and they automatically just deposit right into my account.
Huh.
And it's so easy. It makes it so much easier. I don't have to worry about if it's going to be late or anything like that. They just automatically drop it in there.
That is nice.
And let me send this offer out. All right, there you go, everyone. And you can just click that button. All right. And now we're just going to keep it open for about a minute or so in case you guys have any questions. And then we'll probably wrap it up. All right, well, thank you so much for joining in with our first Easy Landlord Forms webinar. We thank you so much, Luca, for taking time out of your day to, answer questions and just, help everybody out and give us some great information.
It's my pleasure. Hopefully everybody learned something.
And we will actually be conducting another webinar same time next week on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And we're going to be interviewing Luca again. And thank you, everybody, for joining, and have a great rest of your night or day.